getting into the tutorial, we're going to start off with the brows. And I did not do my brows on camera in the last one, and I got a few questions asking how I actually do them, so we're going to actually do that on camera today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little spoolie. I'm going to use this to just spool through them. And then I'm going to go in with my Anastasia Dip brow, and again, mine is in the shade Taupe. So we're going to use this and a little angle brush to do them. I start on my right brow. So I'm going to comb through them, and then once I've spooled through it, I'm going to brush the hairs in an upward manner. Then I'm going to go in with my angle brush, and I'm going to dip into a little bit of that product. And I'm going to first start with the bottom line of my brow. So I like to start at the front. I'm just going to sort of sketch out where those hairs begin. Just like that. So I'm going to make sure that my line is nice and crisp, and that I'm confident in them. Don't worry if you smudge a little bit. We're going to clean it up with concealer later, but for now you want to get the ideal shape. Then I'm going to spool those hairs down, and you'll be able to see where the top portion of your brow is beginning. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Then I'm going to go back in with that spoolie. I'm just going to comb them out normally, and by now you should have the general shape carved out, and I'm just going to go in and fill the sparse areas. Okay, so I went ahead and did the exact same thing to my next eyebrow off camera, and then I went over top of that and I used the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel to just set them in place. So next I'm going to carve out the bottom of the brows and also a little bit on top of the tail. I'm going to go in with this Morphe brush. This is from their new holiday collection. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of Tarte Shape Tape on the back of my hand. I think mine is in the shade Light Sand. And I'm going to dip in a tiny bit. I'm going to carve directly underneath first. I'm going to start with just the tiniest amount of product. Okay, so once I have that on, I'm going to dip back in with just a tad bit more, just so there isn't an awkward space or gap when this dries before we can put a little bit more on to prime the lid. Okay, so then once I have it all underneath, I'm going to take whatever's left on the brush. We're going to carve out that tail, just if you have any mistakes or any lines that aren't completely smooth. You can clean that up now. And then if you knock any hair out of place, go back in with your spoolie. Put them where you want them. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other eye, and we'll get started on the eyes. So moving on to the actual eyeshadow, I'm going to go back in with just a tiny bit more of the Shape Tape. I'm going to pick this up on this Real Techniques dome-shaped brush, and I'm going to slap this all over the lid. And I'm really going to bring it into this inner portion just because I tend to have a lot of darkness there, and I don't want that to take away from the pigments of the shadows. Okay, so once we have that base on, we are going to get started on the actual shadow look. And today we are going to be using Morphe's newest palette. This is the Dare to Create palette. I think today I want to play with like this corner portion of them, like the cranberries. There's not really a bone shade color in here to set the whole lid with. So we are going to go into my Modern Renaissance palette. We're just going to use the first shade up here in the same brush that we applied the concealer with, just to give us a nice clean base. Now the rest of the look will be focused around this palette. First, I'm going to try to give you guys the shades, but if not, we'll link them down below. Okay, so the first shade I'm going to use is Define Me. It's one of the bigger pans, and I'm going to use this as a transition color. It's a really warm orange shade. I'm going to go in and smoke this out. That blended out super easily. So I think today I want to go for a halo eye and use one of the shimmery shades like right in the center. I'm really excited to try them. But we're just going to pop this in blend it out, and then when I think I have enough on to act as that base, we'll move on. Okay, so now on to the actual halo eye. I'm going to use that same brush, and I'm going to go in with the one next to it. So this is Evolve. We're going to pick up a little bit of Evolve. We're going to pop this in the outer corner and the inner. So I'm going to pack it onto that outer corner and then blend it a little into the crease. And I'm not going to intentionally place it in the center of my lid just because we're going to be putting other colors there later. Then again, I'm going to take it onto that inner portion of my eyelid. That inner third, I'm going to focus it onto the lid and then slowly buff that into the crease. This is going to give the bright color something to blend into. And I'm going to buff that up the crease. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to the other eye. Go straight in with Create. This is the bright, like, cranberry magenta shade. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to pack that onto the outer corner as well as the inner. And then we're going to blend whatever's left just directly into that crease and keeping it off the center of the lid. It's okay if a little bit gets on. I'm going to put concealer over top before I apply the shimmery shade, but try to keep it as clean as possible for now. Okay, so now that I have these two shades on, at this point I'm going to go in with a clean blending brush. This one is also by Morphe. I'm going to dip right into the shade we used as a transition. And I'm going to put this right over top, and we're going to start blending the seams just so it's not harsh. And the more we blend now, the less we're going to have to blend later. So I'm going to go back in with the original brush and continue working on the inner and outer portions. We're going to do the exact same thing to the other eye. So once you feel confident in your blending, I'm going to go in with a little pencil brush. This is also by Morphe. And I'm going to grab a mixture of Passion and Forever on this, and we're going to kind of pack this more right into that outer corner. It's like we're really going to define the outer V with this. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on that very, very, very inner portion. I'm going to go back in with this brush, and we're going to kind of blend it out. You can switch between all three of these brushes, apply more where you need it or where you feel you need it. Then when you've kind of buffed it out enough, you can go in with your clean blending brush and fix up those seams. I'm going to do that to the inner and outer portions, then I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. Okay, so now that I've done that to both eyes, I'm going to go back in with that pencil brush, and I think I want to put the tiniest touch of black in the very inner and very outer corner of my eyes. So I'm just going to dip the tiniest amount into that black and put it right in the outer V. This black is so pigmented. Then I'm just going to take the bigger blending brush and kind of buff that out with whatever's left on the brush. Then I'm going to go back in with that clean blending brush again, and I'm going to diffuse the edges, make sure everything is seamless. Okay, then one last time I'm going to go in with the clean blending brush and diffuse all of the edges because we are practically done blending them. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, this is just a Real Techniques little flat brush, and I'm going to pick up the tiniest amount of Tarte Shape Tape. We're going to pack this directly onto the center of the lid and just kind of clean up any excess shadow that is in the center portion. And then as you run out of product, you're going to want to pat towards the outer and inner portions, but you don't want to directly apply it there. So just whatever's left. So now that I have that base on, let's go in with Trendy. We're going to go in with Trendy, and I'm going to go in with the same brush that I just carved out my crease with. We're going to try to apply it dry first. We're going to pop this right in the center of the lid. I want there to be a little bit more light in this though, so we're going to go in with a second shade. We're going to go in with Spark, but I'm going to get my brush wet this time. Okay, I love that. There's definitely a little bit of kickback without getting the brush wet, but they're so pigmented and pretty that I don't even mind. So I'm going to spray this. I'm using the Too Faced Hangover 3-in-1 to spray my brush. And then I'm going to go in over top with Spark, just like we did on the other eye. Okay, so I'm going to blend that out. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to go in with the first blending brush we used because it has darker shadow on it. And I'm going to diffuse the inner and outer portions. Then I'm going to go back with the brush we packed the shimmers on with and kind of pack it into the outer shades. I'm going to go back and forth with my brushes and blend until everything is seamless again. Now that that is done, again, there's not really any shades to like highlight with, just because everything is either very dark and like fall or shimmery. What do we want to use? Okay, I'm going to go in with the Urban Decay Single Shadow. This is in Polyester Bride again. I'm going to pop this on the brow bone and on the very inner corner. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go off camera quickly. I'm going to pop some lashes on. I'm going to pop some mascara on, and then I will be back and we will get started on the face. Now that I have the lashes on, I went in with my tried and true lashes. They're the pure, this is really dirty, but they're the pure lashes in the style Diva. And then I went over top with the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. And I impulse decided to pop a little bit more of Polyester Bride right on the inner portion of my eye. So moving on to the face, I'm going to prime. We're going to use a dewy primer today. This is the NYX Born to Glow Illuminating Primer. I'm going to put a little bit on my hand. And I'm mostly just going to put this like onto my cheeks and then forehead. So on like the bigger areas. And then just work the rest in. So now that this is blended, let's go in with the mixture foundation. I'm going to go in with a little bit of the Mary Kay Time Wise foundation. This is in Ivory 5. I'm going to go with a little bit of this. And then I'm going to go in with like half a pump of my Urban Decay All Nighter. And this is in the shade 2.0. I'm going to mix them on the back of my hand. I'm going to apply it with this Morphe flat top brush. And then I'm going to go back over top and press it in with the Beauty Blender to make sure there's no streaks. I'm going to take that flat top brush and start pressing it in. The forehead, I'm going to blend the bigger areas, but I'm not going to cover the whole thing with this brush just because it's like nearly impossible to get in between the brows. And but I'm going to blend most of that in. Then I'm going to go in with my Real Technique sponge. I'm going to pick up the tiniest bit more, work this in between the brows, and pat it all out. Okay, so then I'm going to pick up whatever is left and apply it into my problematic areas, which right now is basically just like my inner corners and dark circles. So I'm going to place this mostly in the center of my face. Again, really working it into those inner corners without messing up the eyeshadow. This is also going to help later to sharpen the nose contour. Now that we have all of this blended in, we're going to go in with concealer. I'm going to go back in with my Tarte Shape Tape one more time. I'm going to put this underneath the eyes, on the chin, center of the nose, center of the forehead, basically any high points. We're going to conceal and also brighten with these. And then I'm going to work them in. Then to pat out the rest of the edges, I'm going to go in with that flat top brush one more time and pat over everything to make sure there are no lines. And first, I'm going to go in with this little Morphe brush. This is the M438, and I'm going to take a little bit of my Mercier translucent powder. I'm going to take this underneath my eyes, on my chin, center of my forehead, basically anywhere that we highlighted. And then on the rest of the areas, I'm going to go in with a powder that actually gives some coverage. Okay, then for the rest of the face, I'm going to go, wow, I'm going to go back in with this Real Techniques buffing brush and the IT Cosmetics, I believe the Celebration Foundation. I literally snapped the lid off, so let's not pretend that it works. This is in light medium. I'm going to take this and I'm going to press it into the other portions of my face, so basically anywhere that we didn't take that powder. And this is going to give a little bit extra coverage. I don't really need it, but I want it, so around the temples, around the brows, into the hairline. That's kind of ghetto, but like I pinch my brush a little bit and go around those brows to make sure there's no awkward color gap from where you've carved the brow to the foundation. Moving on. Today I'm going to bronze with the only bronzer I ever use, Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I'm going to go in with this like tapered brush. And I'm going to bronze my whole face. Around the brows, the temples. I really like to go in like right in here because when I have any like space of discoloration, it's usually like right in here where I find like little gaps from like my foundation or my concealer or like where the powder didn't cover completely evenly. That's usually where I tend to get it, if I do. So I like to try to focus that in there. And then under the lip, as always. I'm also going to slap a little bit onto the nose. So to further contour and define, I'm going to go in. I have not used this in so long. This is the Anastasia Contour Kit. Super dirty. But I'm going to go in with the cool tone one, the one in the middle. An angle brush. This is by Morphe. None of these brushes have like a number on them, but all of the Morphe eye brushes that I used today and all of the Morphe, okay, I lost it, but except for the one I set my under eyes with, are from their holiday collection palettes, so, or their brush sets. Great. So next, I'm going to go in with blush. I'm just going to go in with the same brush. This, I believe, is the Elizabeth Arden. This is in Aplum. I'm going to take the tiniest amount because it's really pigmented. But this is my go-to blush, my favorite of all time. Before I totally forget to contour my nose, which I already did, I'm also going to go in, this is another brush from that same collection. I'm going to dip into that middle shade, and I am going to make my nose look a little smaller. I'm not going to do it crazy today, but I am still going to get a little bit of definition. So before I highlight, I'm going to go in and smoke out my lower lash line. I'm going to take the brush that we used to overall soften all the edges, and I'm actually going to dip into the transition color. And I'm going to smoke this along the bottom lash line. I'm going to go back in with the pencil brush that we smudged the black into the inner corner with, the inner and outer corners. I'm going to go in with the plum shade. This is in the shade Forever and define the lower lash line. Now that I have smoked out the bottom lash line, I'm going to go back in with the Better Than Sex mascara and apply this to the bottom lashes, and then we'll get the highlighter on and the lips, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so now that I've got that on, I'm going to wrap up the face. We're going to go in with my favorite highlighter. This is the Tarte Amazonian Clay Highlight. This is in Exposed. I'm going to go in again with my Sony Akashic fan brush. I've been really obsessed with this, and I'm going to go back in with the Hangover 3-in-1. Okay, I'm going to spray the brush again, do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so for the lips, I think I'm going to go in with two today. The first one I'm going to go in is by Lime Crime. This is in the shade Beat It. And I'm not going to use a liner with this. Got it, the more I'm like really content with it. So I think we're going to call this a wrap. This is the final look, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely want to do another tutorial with this new Morphe palette because I'm obsessed with the greens in it. But other than that, be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.